What's up, y'all? We are talking about the latest episode of Summer House Martha's Vineyard. This episode was nuts, but I want to say it was one of my faves. There was a lot of beef going on. I think it was one of my faves because it started a lot of conversation. I hadn't seen this much conversation over an episode on Twitter. Prior to this one, like the girls were going up on Twitter talking about this. This episode was actually trending. Well, this Summer House was trending over Atlanta for a minute last night. So I was like, oh, the girls are chatting. So, and I watched it, and it really kind of just like my opinion about I hate to say characters, but like the people on this show, the cast on this show, it changes so much. And I like that. Like, that's good TV, but like, it's also unfortunate because, oh my God, the way that I'm so disappointed in Jordan, but we're going to get into it. I honestly didn't even want to say it. Like, I was kind of being like a Jordan apologist. And like, because I like Jordan. I've been saying that since episode one. But I'm like, ooh. And I'm like, I don't really want to say anything. But then I was getting on Twitter and the girls were saying the things. And I was like, okay. But we're going to get into it. Basically, we start this episode on the back end of the rose brunch that they were having. And I had mentioned last episode how Shanice basically came out and she had showed her breast again. And I felt like that was antagonizing Bria at the end of the day and giving more of an FU to Bria. Even Jason said it like at the table, like, okay, so that was supposed to be a FU. And I'm glad somebody said it, like, because that's exactly what it was. But of course, Shanice played it off and was like, no, I'm just having a good time. Like, she said 100 times now in the 3 episodes that she's been, I'm just trying to have a good time. Like, no, you're an asshole. And you're a bad friend. I don't know why Bria's friends with her. But, yeah, she comes out. I mentioned this last episode. Jasmine's like, I don't like that. And then even Bria did her confessional. And she's like, well, now everybody can see it. Now she's like getting naked in front of your husband. So now how does it feel? Of course, they didn't get into it too much. There was no way in hell that Jasmine was going to hold Shanice accountable, especially if it was not to look agreeable to Bria's point. So that wasn't going to happen. But whatever. I did like that we got the scene. I don't know why we cut this scene. We're having some Atlanta issues over here, huh? This is Real Housewives of Atlanta now. Like, they literally cut the scene last episode where I guess Bria and Shanice had a conversation and Bria's like, we squashed it. Which I'm like, great. Great for the sake of the show. Great for the sake of your friendship. But also, I wouldn't be rocking with Shanice. But I'm glad that Bria is a forgiving girl. I'm not. They had that conversation, and then I guess also they showed another scene that they hadn't showed us where before Shanice got naked in the hot tub, she asked Simon, was it okay? Or like she was asking the people in the hot tub that included Simon. And Simon said, I would have to ask Bria. So that just gives more credence to my argument that she knew that it was an issue. Because you're asking them like, hey, is it okay that I get naked? Like, you were mindful enough to ask that question and mindful enough to know that your best friend's man was sitting in the hot tub next to you. And then he even said the name. In case you have forgotten who the young lady was, he even said, I'll have to ask Bria. That should have said, ding, 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 ding. Oh, that's my best friend. Maybe I shouldn't have my out in front of her man. But then even still, she's like, whatever, I'm just trying to have fun and gets naked. That kind of amps up the argument for me, and I that makes it even worse for me. But I'm a principle girl. I like to get into the nooks and the crannies of the beef because I don't like that. It's a principle for me, and I'm gonna get into every nook and cranny. But again, if Bria wants to get past it and keep her friendship, good for you, homegirl. I honestly thought we were gonna be done with this brunch, but the brunch was tea. I didn't like though how I mean, Shanice was already being a mess. And instead of holding her accountable, Jasmine's like, are you going to confront Alex? And it's like, dang, girl. Like, Jasmine's a good producer. I'm going to give her that. Like, she needs a producer credit because she ate that. And then even, like, she asked her, like, 3 times, like, girl, are you going to bring it up? Like, hello, are you going to bring it up? Hello, we're filming a show. Are you going to bring it up? And you're only here for 1 minute. Like, girl, get to filming. Do your work. We've been working. Now you need to work. And even when she didn't bring it up, Jasmine brought it up. Jasmine was like, okay, well, girl, you're not going to talk about it. Hey, Alex, so, like, what's the tea with the fact that you Googled Shanice? She didn't like that. Shanice didn't like that. Shanice didn't want to say nothing, but she didn't like that. I did initially, like, and that's what's the switch up for me. The way this chair is switching up is what Jordan was giving this episode. I liked initially that Jordan was like, well, Shanice didn't bring it up. It didn't seem like Shanice wants to talk about it, so I don't know if this is the right time to be talking about it. Great. But then they get to talking about it, and Jordan's all like in a hissy. What? They get to talking about it, and it very clearly, very clearly becomes like an attack on Alex, like this created type of scene to attack Alex and make Alex look like a weirdo. And I like that Alex, even in this type of moment, I don't know that I would have been able to be that calm and be that rational and be that articulate. Like he's literally like, assessing it as it's happening. And I'm like, kudos to you, King. Like, he's like, y'all being weird. Like, y'all are trying to make this a thing. And we all had this conversation. And then kudos to production. Literally shows a group of 6 or 7 of them in the kitchen having this very conversation.
I wouldn't hide from that.
Saying those very, it wasn't even stuff we had to piece together. They're literally all in the kitchen talking about, well, yeah, like, you know, Alex Googled Shanice and found out some things, and he addressed it with Shanice. And this is awkward, but hey, it's going to give Shanice an opportunity to talk about it. They're all literally in agreement having this conversation in the kitchen, but now they're at the table, not everybody, but they're at the table acting like it's an issue that he Googled Shanice and making it seem like he's weird. That was crazy. So I'm so glad that Alex was able to take a step back and realize, like, okay, no, y'all are trying to make a moment. And I like that there were people at the table that could acknowledge, like, yeah, y'all are being weird. Y'all are trying to make this a moment. And that was a switch up for me. Jordan jumped right in on that quite heavy. And it was clear, like, DeRosa was getting to her. I could tell. Like, she literally switched up on Alex. She's like, but why would you do that? Like, you Google her, but you didn't give her the opportunity to da 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 da. He never made it an issue, though. At the end of the day, the only thing that Alex ever made an issue with Bria was that she had boundary issues because she was like grabbing on him and stuff without consent. He was very clear about that. All he ever said about the rumors was that he was uncomfortable around her because there were some rumors. That was it. And that's okay to say. Like, she does seem a little off. She does seem a little weird. She's walking around butt naked in front of her best friend's man. So, yeah, I'm a little weary around her. Like, I don't know her like that. But that was literally it. I don't understand why it's such a big deal in saying, well, yeah, you Google her, but you didn't talk to her about it. It wasn't nothing to talk about. So, I mean, I didn't agree with that. I didn't like that Jordan was on that bandwagon and just, she was being weird. Like, I don't know, like, starting last episode, I started to see some cracks in Jordan, and I don't really have the words. I've been thinking of the words to, like, describe what's really going on there with Jordan, but I just cannot come up with it. Like, I don't know. It's giving, though, a little self righteous is kind of where I might have to start. That's kind of the floor for me in terms of adjectives to describe the cracks in Jordan, but I don't really know where it goes from there. But the tweets, if you guys would like to see more, I still don't want to read her because I like Jordan. But like, if y'all really want more, like, please go check the tweets out. And there's nothing but facts there. And I've liked every single one if you want a clue as to which tweets to look at. He took a walk, reassessed, and then came back. And they were able to come back. I'm just, ooh, I wouldn't be able to be the one. Like, I'd be like, y'all are switching up. Like, I think that Alex, it's unfortunate because it took a while for Alex to open up with the group and get there with the group. And now that he has, he's becoming the scapegoat for something that everybody was talking about. And like I said last episode, y'all are so committed to like acting like Shanice is not weird just so you could be adversarial to other people. You want to be adversarial towards Bria's points about Shanice. You want to be adversarial towards Alex's points about Shanice because they're not your fan favorites. Like, you don't really live for them like that. So you're going to do anything to be against what they say. But over here, everybody individually and collectively knows that Shanice is a weird piece of girl. So I just don't like that energy, and it really threw me off completely. Like, but that's just the tip of the iceberg as it pertains to the weirdness of Jordan. Like, this is a series. Please stay tuned. But I also do think that it was important to highlight, like, and I like that Alex said that as well, like, because Jordan was getting big buck. And she's like, okay, but you're making it a thing now. He's like, I'm not making it a thing. Jasmine brought it up, and Jasmine has been the main one bringing it up, and y'all have been the main ones being upset because now that I even go back when it first was brought up, because it wasn't even like Alex didn't even go to everybody and said that he Googled uh Shanice. He told somebody, I can't remember who he told, but then it traveled around the house. And when it was given, they were in the car, they were going somewhere. When somebody gave that information to Jordan, she just had such a big opinion about it. Like, she always has these weird, big opinions. And it's just like, what type of argument is it that, like, if he was feeling some type of way about Shanice, he should have came to her and talked about it? He doesn't owe her that. Like, you can have an opinion about somebody and feel like you don't want to rock with them like that, and you don't gotta have to go sit down and have a sit down conversation with them. Especially if you didn't make it a big deal. Like, I guess I could agree if Alex was walking around making a big deal, like, I don't rock with Shanice. Shanice is weird. Shanice is weird. He never did any of that. He never even made it a topic. We haven't even talked about the her stalking her ex thing since that episode. What was that, episode 2? And y'all are bringing it up because she's back and we need another storyline. And instead of holding her accountable, now we want to come up with something else to talk about on the show. That was just so weird. We didn't get to this thing where they're sitting in the house and Alex is sitting on the couch kikiing with Shanice, Jordan, and Preston. This is what started to blow me. Like, it felt like Alex is getting more comfortable with the group now, so it felt like, oh, we can use him now. Like, we can get some footage out of him because we're tired of watching Silas beef over Skittles, which he's still gonna do. We're still gonna get a little bit of that. We'll get there. But we're so tired of that storyline, and we're so tired of the forced arguments with Bria. So Alex is speaking this week, so let's use Alex. So, they're kikiing. Alex makes a very, I'm just trying to be careful with my words. Alex makes a joke as Jordan is laying on Preston, and he makes a joke and he says, there's a rumor that you've been sleeping with Preston, sleeping in the bed with Preston every night. That doesn't go in line with your celibacy story. I, I'm not going to tell anybody how to feel. I took the joke though as a light-hearted Kiki joke. I actually thought it was very funny. Not very funny, like I didn't slap my knee, but I thought that it was a clever joke. I mean, Preston's obviously queer. He and Jordan obviously have no involvement to my knowledge or eyesight. Uh, I didn't think that was a key on Jordan's celibacy because she's not gonna have sex with Preston anyway. I just didn't see the big deal. Is basically what I'm trying to say. So Jordan kind of just flies off the handle about that. A lot of that I think was Jordan being intoxicated, and a lot of that I think was Jordan's internal things. Like, I think that the self righteousness in Jordan is starting to show. There's this whole internal thing with Jordan where you can tell, like, she's feeling some type of way about herself. Like, there's some insecurity in her. We all have insecurities, right? But it's like she's projecting that out on other people, and it's coming off as like she feels like people view her a certain way because that's how she views herself. And so the self-righteous thing comes in because Jordan's always acting and communicating and interacting to prove a point to somebody, including herself. Like, it's always such a combative thing. Like, the way that I had first interpreted it, and which I really liked about Jordan, she comes off as very like confident and straightforward and level headed. But once you kind of look at it more and see how she's interacting with the other castmates, it does come off a lot like she's just trying to be right and trying to prove a point all the time. It just never really feels like she has that much lighthearted and fun conversation. Like, her conversations are pretty heavy. And I think that she takes offense to a lot. And I like I said, I hate to have to highlight these things about Jordan. A, because I like her, and B, because I am big on like feelings, right? Like, we all have feelings, and I don't ever want to discredit anybody's feelings. I'm fine with disagreeing with the way that you react as a result of having those feelings. But I don't ever want to disagree with people's feelings because my whole thing is rationale. Like I'm talking about, like for me, this just wasn't rational for her to be upset with Alex. However, feelings themselves are not rational. That's you having emotions. That's you being a person. So that's fine. I get it. But what you do with those emotions is what I'm critiquing. And I just have an issue with the fact that like she takes these internal feelings and emotions and they just don't get articulated well. They just don't. Like it'd be different to say this is how I feel and this is how I see you guys making me feel, and you doing this made me feel some type of way and it triggered me into this, as opposed to doing it the Jordan route. And she's like, well, you did this to me. You did this to me. Like, it's not fair. It's just not fair to project that on everybody else at the end of the day. And I think that Alex had been a scapegoat for Jordan all day. And I also don't like that. Like I think that Alex was an easy target and Jordan is just one of those persons when she's in her feelings, she gets on attack mode and defense mode and it's going to be whoever is an easy target, whoever can be the casualty. And it was easy for Alex to be the casualty because he is a little bit light spoken. But he, like I said, at the brunch table, he was being very articulate. And he's like, no, this is BS. And I think even when, Jordan's getting into it with him now over the joke he made, and she's like, well, you've been sexualizing me. I think that he knew to take a step back and he's like, I can't even have this argument. There's no winning that I can do. I will say, like, when they showed the clips, and, like, I'm even going to say, like, when he called her thick, I did think that was cringy. Like, that is cringy. Like, you shouldn't say that. But I don't feel as though Alex had any malintent as it pertains to Jordan. And I just personally don't feel like anybody can watch the show and feel like that about Alex. I'm not saying Alex is a great guy. I don't know anything about Alex. But from what I'm seeing on the show, I didn't see any interaction where it felt like he was trying to be malicious towards Jordan. That's all that I'm going to say. The way that she felt and perceived it is fair for her to feel that way. But the way that she reacted as a result, I just don't think that the crime fit. I don't think the punishment fit the crime at all. I think that she was just getting turned up at Alex because it was easy to get turned up at Alex. And there were other things to be turned up about. So I didn't like that. I'm trying to give as much grace as I possibly can because it's obviously something that's affecting her. But I just also feel like the way that she's reacting is not cool. It's not okay. And I also don't think that she's taking accountability for that. Like the producers asked her like, do you think, because she kind of roped Amir into it too, like, because Amir came in, he's trying to rationalize, she's like, well, you sexualized me too. And it's like, I mean, again, those are her feelings, but even the producer asked her, like, do you feel like it's really about Alex and Amir, or is it something else? And it felt like she was skating around that. She's like, well, like, yeah, it's something else, but it's also like them. It's all these things combined. And it's like, girl, you're smart enough. Read the room. Like, you know that the producers asked you that for a reason. Like, this was your opportunity to take some accountability and say, hey, I was in my feelings and I kind of exploded a little bit. She said it when she was having a conversation with her dad, but still, even when she gave him the story, it just was like she basically said like, there's this guy here and he's been sexualizing me, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like so obviously her dad's instinct was to take her side, but it's like I just feel like the whole story hadn't been told. Like I feel like she's not giving all of the information and not fully analyzing it. And I just didn't like that. Like, that really turned me off. Even when they got to the kitchen, thank God that Amir was grown up enough to have the conversation and get past it with her and they could be cool. But even still, there was no accountability from her to be like, hey, I turned up on you and I really didn't need to do that because you hadn't done anything wrong. That's just my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that there was a way for her to tell both Alex and Amir, hey, these things that you guys have said and have done have made me feel some type of way. Because I also thought she was valid last week when she was having a conversation with Alex. And Alex, brought up to her, like, Amir called dibs on you. And she was like, I don't like that they're calling dibs on me. Like, men are calling. I think that that's a valid point. But how you articulate it and communicate it needs to be different. Aren't you the main one talking about how Alex Googled Shanice and had an opinion about Shanice but didn't bring it to her? You had an issue with Amir calling dibs on you, rightfully so, but you didn't have that conversation with him. Y'all lay up and kiki all day long. Every time we see y'all together, he's laid up in your bed and y'all are kikiing. So why didn't you have that conversation with him if you had an issue with it? But now you're using it on Mad Day. Like I didn't like that. I didn't respect that. I wish that we had gotten another woman's perspective as well. Obviously, that's Jordan's personal experience, but I wish that we had heard from another one of the ladies to say, like, yeah, like when guys do this, it does feel like sexualization, or like heard an example of what Jordan was talking about and get their perspective on it. I think that that would have been good as well. Because like I keep saying, I don't think that anything was wrong with the way that she was feeling, but the way that she was articulating it and the way that she was acting out and projecting it on the group, I just didn't think it was fair. Like the issue was not with Alex and Amir. At the end of the day, the issue was like much more deeper than that, and I wish that she had taken some accountability for that. But I just needed some more context. I'm liking seeing this like well, I keep changing routes, but there's just things coming up in my head. Because, I mean, the longer that they sit in this house, I think that things are starting to hit ahead for them. Like, it's just not so much more about doing the show and being on and acting, but it's also like I'm here and these things are happening and there are dynamics and there's a lot going on. So it was interesting to see Jasmine, like, laid up in the bed with Silas. And she's like, I'm feeling some insecurity because the reaction that Jordan had really shifted the group, and I don't get that same reaction. And I read a little bit deeper into that. I feel like, which is natural for a lot of people, both Jordan and Jasmine have had situations on this show and while they've been on the trip where their emotions and internal feelings have caused them to do weird stuff on the outside and kind of have weird interactions with the group is how I was reading into what Jasmine was kind of saying. I think that they both had those experiences and they've had these outbursts in the groups. But as it pertains to Jasmine, I think that her outbursts have kind of been swept under the rug because Jasmine can be a little weird to other people. So it was just like, girl, like when she was crying at dinner about her marriage, like, I don't think she got such a huge reaction because it's like, well, yeah, but you put that on yourself. You're weird. As it pertains to Jordan, though, I think now that she's had this outburst, is easier to I don't think that she's getting any more grace than Jasmine is. I don't think that's what it is, but I think you treat it differently because that is a real thing. And, I don't think anybody's trying to discredit her feelings because it's not something to discredit. What we want to discredit is the way that she is lashing out and acting. But, at the end of the day, you pick and choose your battles. So I think what it is like everybody sees where she's coming from. They don't agree with the way that she approached it and the way that she's handling it. But we're not going to sit here and critique that because it's just not even worth it at the end of the day. Let her get it out, and it just kind of is what it is. Now, if it happened again, who's to say what the reaction would be? But I kind of feel like that's where the house was at. Unspoken rule of just let her get it out. Like, yeah, there was some pushback, and yeah, we're analyzing it in the confessionals and with each other, and we realized that there's a bigger issue there, and she was lashing out, but we're not going to jump into it. Jasmine, on the other hand, you're always acting weird. So, when you're crying over your marriage and telling us that you feel like you're distanced from your friends, you're kind of just telling us stuff that we already knew because you're weird. You're doing that. So I think that's the difference. But it was interesting to hear her acknowledge that she was feeling insecure about that. But I think that she now needs to take that and do some work on that. Like, you got some weird stuff going on, babe. This whole scene with Jasmine and Silas, like when Silas is going off about his pants, babe, like, and I'm like picturing it because I'm the king of like ironing my clothes and getting a stain on them from the iron. Like, that stuff happens and it is irritating, but not to the point where I want to kick, scream, and yell, at my wife. I just don't. Like, that's so crazy. Like, the more I was just saying, as they settled in these 2 weeks, the more that we see Silas, the weirder he gets. I don't even know that I want to go deeper into that, but he's just so weird and so disrespectful to his wife. Like, ugh. I do like though that Jasmine doesn't back down. Like you can tell that Jasmine is like she'll go with the flow and she wants to make it all look good and stuff like that. But she don't back down when it comes to Silas's bullshit. And I do like that about her. Like she's like, boy, I'm not dealing with this. Like you're silly. You're really, really being weird. And somebody tweeted like, it's interesting to see like they're like this is the reason why you don't get married to get out of your situation. And I think I can see that. Like what I'm seeing is Jasmine's very judgmental about her friends, and similar to Jordan, I think that that's an internal thing, and there's some like deflection there and there's some projecting there. There was something about who Jasmine was or is with her friends that she doesn't like, either because she doesn't personally like it about herself or because she thinks that people view it negatively. I think they also have this thing where it's like, oh, they work for Playboy and they joke about it a lot, but I think they have some insecurity about that because there can be some misconceptions about it, sure, of course. So I think that they all kind of share that. So I think that Jasmine just doesn't like who she is in that part of life, or who she was in that part of life. And so I think she married Silas because it was looking, you know, like, oh, I'm a married woman now. Like this takes me out of that narrative, and it's just like, but this is why you don't get married for that, right? Like you're trying to pull off this image, and at the end of the day, it's not authentic, and we can literally see right through it. So there's some inner work that Jasmine needs to do. And I think that she's recognizing that, and I hope that she does it. I think that her and Jordan are similarly recognizing that there is some inner work that they need to do, but they're lacking that next piece for me, which is the accountability to say, like, well, I'm in control of this, right? And I can do something about this. I haven't really seen them do that, so I'm hoping that that's to come. Not even for the show's sake, for them. Silas lost cause. I don't think he knows that there's an issue with himself at all. It was fun seeing them make the soul food for the pride party. I thought that was fun, and it was cool to see Preston's partner. That was cool. He hasn't really talked about him much, which is fine. But I thought it was fun to see him on the show and just see Preston, get to know Preston more. I think we honestly, I would say like Preston is somebody who's growing a lot. Like his character is just growing so much on the show. And like I said, I hate to say character because it's not like it's fake, but it's like you just seeing him developing a lot and showing more of himself and just being him and being cool. So I'm just really enjoying Preston, and I am excited for him to have the Pride party. That's fun. It's Pride Month, so I like how that kind of fell for them. It was also hilarious to see Simon come downstairs in his little outfit and them call him White Rick Ross. I thought that was hilarious. Oh, and I liked hearing Jasmine. Like, I like that they throw the history in here a lot. That's cool. Like, I liked hearing Jasmine talk about the origin of soul food and where it really came from. Stuff like that is fun. It doesn't feel like preachy and like history bookish. Like, it's just dialogue that we throw into the show to give us context. And you know, you can watch the show and be entertained and have fun, but you're gonna learn too. So I like that, especially because it's young, these are young black people at the end of the day, and it's like we should know more about our culture, and if you don't know, you should learn those types of things and have those type of conversations with your friends, like kiki, argue, do all of this that silly stuff, don't get naked around your friend's man, but yeah, also talk about like where soul food came from and like black culture and history. I thought it was hilarious watching Summer make the drink. And she's like, what type of night do I want to give these people? Honey, get the girls drunk. Baby, no debate about it, honey. Go for it. I like seeing the guys do their little dance for Pride. I love an ally. It's fun, like when straight guys don't have to take themselves so seriously and do the whole toxic masculinity thing. So that was fun. I always enjoy that. And I like that Simon's being a part of the group. Even though, girl, they was not trying to let Simon come stay for that week. Like, Simon's being a part of the group and he's having a good time. He's great. Honestly, Simon can come back next summer, in my opinion. He's on my list. For them to get back, like, they done had this whole pride party. They had a good time. They were drunk thanks to Summer. And they get back to the room, and Silas like, babe, let's talk about my pants. Jasmine's like, what?
Hey, you want to circle back and talk about what happened today?
What are you talking about?
My pants. That's what I'm talking about.
Why would we talk about that?
Like, that's when I connected with Jasmine because that's my vibe. Honestly, girl, like pick up the phone and text me next time because we can kiki over Silas. Are you serious? She said, why would we talk about that? Like, Silas, be for real. He just got to such a disrespectful point. Like, I don't even know how she deals with him. But like I said, I love that she doesn't back down to him. I just don't even know where it's gonna come from, how it's gonna come, what sign from God we're gonna need for Silas to realize that he has some issues that he really needs to figure out. Like, I just can't even dive into it too much. I just do not live for Silas. Like, I don't like him. I don't like him being weird and disrespectful to his wife. I don't like him being weird and disrespectful to the other house guests. Like, he's just a weird guy. He doesn't even seem super likable, like, at all. You can tell that he's a very prideful guy. So I'm glad that Jasmine's keeping it real with him. Like, the way that you think is a turnoff. It is, and I know that hit him his pride. I know it's gonna make him act even worse. He's one of those people where like you hit his pride and you make him feel some type of way, and he's only gonna start acting worse. Now he's having a temper tantrum, and you get to see it. Like even the next day when she made him that food and he barely ate it, he's talking about some, I don't eat too much starch. And I like how we ended the episode on that like cliffhanger of her like she starts to take the plate and let it go, but she kind of puts it down and sits there and looks. Please let us pick back up on that next episode because ain't no goddamn way. Like, boy, now you're picking and now you're trying to make it a thing because you're pouting. Like, Jasmine got to get out. She got to get out. Honestly, like, she has to get up out of that relationship because Silas is a fool. This episode did nothing but highlight Shanice's foolishness, Jordan's foolishness, Silas's foolishness, Silas's commitment to foolishness. Like, it was just a lot of foolishness, but it also was a good episode and we had some fun. But these people have some work to do, honey. Some demons to battle, baby. And I will see you next time.